It's a beautiful thing to watch.
With the 17-year-old entering the draft, it brings up the question yet again, how young is too young?
In other NBA news, the Golden State Warriors making headlines earlier today by announcing that in 19...
Chosen one, huh?
Welcome, everyone, to the ESPN Sports Center. From this very desk, in the coming weeks and months, we'll be filling you in on the pulse of sporting activity, not only around the country, but around the world as well. If it takes an interview, we'll do it. If it takes commentary, we'll do that too.
I am not tired yet.
That's the way we'll function from the ESPN Sports Center.
You're watching Sports Center.
ESPN and Sports Center sure have come a long way in the last 40 years. From George Grand on something new called cable TV in your living room, to me, Gary Streisky, rocking with you on something we call a smartphone in the palm of our hand. And to know where you're going, you need to know where you've been. So let's take a look back. Let's start all the way at the beginning. Day one, just the first of what would be many firsts at ESPN.
On September 7th, 1979, we went on the air at 7 o'clock, and just before that, around 6:30 or so, my son Scott and I walked around the building. We didn't know if anybody would be watching. We had no idea whether the satellite would work. And we looked at each other and literally held each other and said, "Do you believe this is really going to happen?" So then we counted down from 10 and everybody could hold their breath.
I'm Lee Leonard, welcoming you to Bristol, Connecticut, 110 miles from New York City.
Thanks, Lee, and welcome everyone to the ESPN Sports Center.
It was tense, it was exciting, and we waited for the phone to ring for somebody to say they were watching. We didn't get any phone calls.
Yeah, my first draft was the '83 season and the 1984 NFL draft. And I remember at the time, even leading up to that, the NFL wasn't really excited about the draft being televised. They thought it would be a boring scenario, something that would kind of be embarrassing to the NFL just to read player names, and why would anybody watch something like this?
Well, thank you very much, George. We'll be here throughout the day on the Sports Center, and I'll be joined by Chris Berman and Mel Kiper Jr. as we put the players in the context of their brand new team.
I was talked about it as like, why are you on there? Why are you wasting your time talking about these players? Why don't you get a real job, do something that people really care about? So there was a lot of negativity.
One thing I would say to Boomer, not to be too discouraged, when you look back in the past history, a lot of times the quarterbacks that go in the second, the fourth, fifth round turn out to be better than the quarterbacks that go into the first round.
To see it come full circle from being hated to being loved as it is right now, I think it is a case where I think there's a lot of people saying, hey, get on board, jump on that bandwagon. I think everybody has.
I'm really fortunate to have been a part of a number of launches here at ESPN, and maybe one of the biggest was the Extreme Games, which is what it was originally called. It's the summer of 1995, and imagine we're trying to create this giant television production virtually from scratch.
Over the next 7 days, we're not entirely sure what's going to happen.
There we were, in the middle of an old Civil War fort, trying to produce television. So there's no electricity, there's no running water. We had to try to keep the dust and the dirt out of the videotapes. There's no place to change clothes when it comes close to airtime. It's just, hey, guys in the trailer, turn around, because I'm gonna get dressed now. The producers are in one trailer just trying to put together some sort of rundown. And then they get the word that, oh no, there's condensation on the ramps and we're gonna have to change this segment with this segment.
The inline street competition had to be postponed.
Heavy cloud cover has been a problem. There were so many fun challenges to try to create an event like that. It's really, if you look back on it, remarkable.
I was the researcher for this show that was about to launch in a week. You know how people say you could be behind the scenes? I was behind scenery. I was where the heads on sticks would have been, but we haven't even invented faces on sticks for the PTI background, you know, the Sgt. Pepper's background. And I'm lobbing. I mean, we're talking about liquid, white-hot hot takes. This is what I got at 23. This is all I got. And that was the kernel, the nugget that turned into Stat Boy 6 days later.
Every day we do this show, we make terrible errors. Well, you do. I do. And Stat Boy lets us know what they are. Stat Boy, what do you got for us?
Not too bad today, guys, for a couple of newspaper guys trying to do a TV show. Mike, you dropped the ball once, though, talking about how cocky the Rams were. 31-17 when they went for an onside kick. No, not really. 31-7 in the third quarter.
They wanted that accountability on TV. That's something we're born and raised on at PTI and now around the horn. You're only as good as you are accountable.
When we were starting around the horn.
Welcome to the ongoing argument where we don't hold grudges, but I do keep score. Quickly, here is today's panel of the country's top sports columnists.
Early on in the show's history, it was panned by critics because they wanted some kind of staid sports show where everyone spoke very calmly and respectfully to each other as though that's a sports debate that you've ever encountered.
Jay, start talking. I should be the up. I muted him. It's going to stay that way for 10 seconds. 5 points comes off his score when I do that.
Stuart Scott came up to me in the hallway one day, and this was at the height of his fame. Stuart Scott made a beeline toward me and said, hey, you know, all the stuff that people are talking or whatever you hear, you're doing great. You keep doing exactly what you're doing. This guy did not have to go out of his way to say that.
Stu Scott, a reminder there of some of the friends and absolute legends we've lost along the way. From Jimmy V's incredible spirit to John Saunders' voice of reason, and to the countless others whose impact we've felt just the same.
1993, it's Saturday night. I had been at ESPN all day prepping for my Sunday morning show, and I get a call from my producer who said, we believe Arthur Ashe has passed away. Can you make some calls to confirm? And I said, I can't make the call. I know him. It's too personal. They called back and said, it's been confirmed. So that next morning, I didn't want to do the show. And I was choked up.
You know very well my fondness for tennis, and you know that was fostered by Arthur Ashe.
It was like the first time I really showed emotion like that on the air.
So well put, how he played the game.
And I worried that that was going to be seen as a negative.
We appreciate you being here and letting us mourn with you.
I really learned a lot about myself and a lot about the ESPN audience. I thank you for allowing me to show emotion that day and not holding it against me, but lifting me up and saying, it's okay.
It was August of 1996. Tom Mees. Even just uttering his name, it's just such sadness I feel.
A member of our family passed away today, and a member of yours did too. Tom Mees, one of the original SportsCenter anchors, died this afternoon in a drowning accident in a swimming pool in Southington, Connecticut.
He was a good friend of mine. He was a buddy of mine. He welcomed me to ESPN when many were not welcoming me to ESPN. I learned from him all the time to tell the story. Don't make yourself the story. Make the game the story. Make the highlight the story. Make the athlete the story. Make the star the story. Tom was so many great things, but that was his biggest strength. When Tom died, I was scheduled to do Sunday morning SportsCenter. I felt like Tom was there with us. I really felt the presence of Tom Mees as I was doing every single highlight. I mean, I felt it. I felt the difference in me.
I was anchoring a 6 p.m. SportsCenter in February of 2001, and the Daytona 500 was that day. That's going to be our lead, and then right at the end of the race, Dale Earnhardt crashes. And we don't really know how badly he's hurt, but there were rumors that it was pretty bad. So we get on the set, and I'm asking, what's going on? What's the latest? What can we go with? What are we reporting here?
Good evening and welcome to the Sunday edition of SportsCenter. Alongside David Lloyd, I am Kevin Core.
I'll never forget the producer saying in my ear, just chilling, go with, he's dead. Dale Earnhardt is dead. And that was literally 5 seconds before I started talking.
The sports world is in a state of shock right now. The Daytona 500 is supposed to be the NASCAR's brightest day. Today, it's one of its saddest. Dale Earnhardt has been pronounced dead at Halifax Hospital this evening.
I realized how important Dale Earnhardt was to the racing community, to America, basically. And to have the weight of that and have to deliver that news to people was an awful thing to do.
I've been here a while, and I've gotten to do some cool stuff. And I got a chance to treat a normal person like a superstar when my path crossed with Tyler Trent. Now, Tyler was this Purdue super fan.
2, 3. It was osteosarcoma, bone cancer, 20 years old, in hospice care.
His story included him predicting that they were going to knock off Ohio State, which was insane, and then they did. I think Tyler spoke it into existence. And so Tyler and I are texting back and forth, and he said, let me know if you ever need me. It would be a dream to work with you. We are joined now by Tyler Trent, who obviously has the correct look to be my co-host.
Just the fact that my story would have that kind of an impact and that someone would be thinking about it, there just aren't words.
He sent me a text that night that told me that I had made his dream come true. He said it was like his own Make-A-Wish. And what do you do that will ever be as important as giving a young man his wish? What is there besides that? Well, nothing.
SportsCenter holds a special place. It's a powerful platform, and sometimes you just gotta hold on for the ride. So let's pull back the curtain and take a look behind the scenes with the General.
The summer of 1989, the story of Pete Rose simply captivated America, and it energized our news operation like we'd never seen. I remember flying out to Western Pennsylvania to meet with a fellow who had overheard the phone conversation of Pete laying those bets down.
Rose mentioned Peters, and it was clear that Rose knew that this was the guy that was booking his action.
Oh, yeah. There he was, an ear witness to the bets being placed.
ESPN has obtained a telephone conversation tape of two individuals who allegedly placed bets for Pete Rose.
And we had it before anybody else that he was going to get banned from baseball. The only question was length. We start to write the show, Dan Patrick and myself, probably the biggest story of the 10 years that ESPN had been on the air. And then suddenly, the computers began to fail. You'd be in the middle of writing the lead of the show, and the screen would go blank. We're hopping from computer to computer, saying, my God, we're writing the most important show we'll ever write. We're just hoping it's getting into the system, but it did.
Pete Rose and baseball not together anymore. What is left is the memory of a summer when a legend's mortality became all too real.
It was the story that went for months, and we'd like to think we were out in front on it the entire summer.
You know, it's great to be out in front of something. Everybody loves to be first. No one ever said the second take was the favorite take. It's always the first take, especially when they're the wrong takes, which can also be the first take.
When we talk about ESPN, understand, in the throes of having fun and a good time doing what you love to do, etc., there are moments of misery. There are moments where the last thing you want to do is show up to work.
Are you Tebowing Stephen A? It looks like he's Tebowing.
It was Skip Bayless and I doing First Take in the 2012 playoffs when Tim Tebow threw an 80-yard touchdown pass to Demaryius Thomas in overtime to beat my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers.
I did not pick up the phone this morning because I did not want to see you, I did not want to talk to you, and I still don't, but I'm here.
And that was the largest amount of crow I ever had to eat in my career in broadcasting.
The debate that'll never die on First Take, it's actually Max Kellerman, who predicted that Tom Brady, the GOAT, 6 rings, Tom Brady, was gonna fall off a cliff. And let me tell you, Max didn't just say it was gonna be a gradual, it was gonna be a precipitous road runner.
Tom Brady's just about done. It could be his next game he plays. It could be a year from now. But he is going to fall off a cliff. Tom Brady is going to be a bum in short order.
Instead, Max had to eat his words because Super Bowl 53, who pulls off another comeback? Oh yes, that would be TV12.
We won the Super Bowl. You can't say nothing. I mean, you can sit here and argue with me all you want. At the end of the day, he's the GOAT, and we won another Super Bowl. And just the look on your smile says it all.
And he was honored by the New England Patriots in the media as Hater of the Year, a special moment for all of us.
Embrace debate? Sure. Embrace backlash? Sure. Embrace the chaos? Even better.
We called arena football games. This is back when Kurt Warner, the NFL Hall of Famer, was playing for the Iowa Barnstormers. Normally, even when I'm called college games, you're in a booth, right? You're up kind of separated from the crowd. Well, this was so new in arena football, and these venues weren't, you know, sometimes the greatest venues. And the football field is a barn in Iowa, something called a barn, not a real big stretch. Think of a table at like an outside barbecue at your house. They set one of those up in the stands, right over the chairs we were sitting in. We were literally sitting with the fans. I had a Barnstormer fan next to me the entire game, which worked out well because I had a hot dog, I had nachos, and he let me wear his corncob hat.
Oh, this is pretty cool.
And through most of the game, I wore a corn head sitting right next to Iowa Barnstormer fans.
You look perfectly ridiculous.
It was such a great memory, and how much access you got, not only to the players, but obviously to the fans sitting right next to me.
Remember the old show called Wide World of Sports? I said, what if we added an R and it was called Wider World of Sports? Somehow they fell for that, and we literally were shooting something like a month later. The greatest experience was called the Palio, and this is a horse race that's been going on for centuries in this town called Siena, Italy. They roll back the tables from the restaurants, they throw down some dirt, and if they beat their rival Contrada, it's called, the other district, they think that they're gonna have a better year than the other people. And we got to meet one of the villages the most. They were called the Unicorns. They had picked a really bad horse. They all just looked like, you know, their lives were over. They had no chance in this race. Somehow the Unicorn people beat the Owl's horse. It was like they had won the world championship.
Beat the owl, beat the owl.
We took our time with it, probably because we liked being in Italy for 2 weeks, but also we needed the footage.
I think back to the last week of January and the beginning of February 2014 when the Super Bowl was in New York City, which is my hometown. If I had to pick what I think was my most memorable day at ESPN, I think it would be the day that Jerry Seinfeld came on Mike and Mike Live.
How are you, Jerry? Fine. Very nice to meet you.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm a little shaky, to be completely honest with you.
And as Jerry might say, it was worlds colliding. It was sports, and it was entertainment, and he was funny, and he was insightful, and it was, I thought, a perfect microcosm of what ESPN has become.
You didn't come in on a bus, did you?
Do you think I did, Mike?
You didn't jump on the M21 and come down Broadway?
No, I took a hang glider. I own this town. It's the biggest star talking about sports in an entertaining way, in the world's biggest city, previewing the world's biggest sporting event.
If you could be any athlete in any sport at any time, who would you pick?
I would be a golfer for sure. I would be the best golfer in the world, whichever one it would be.
That's the most boring answer I could possibly imagine.
That was a day I will never forget.
2017, College Game Day goes to Penn State. And one of the traditions at Penn State is a student body starts chanting, "We want the Lion," and the Lion mascot comes over and they body surf him to the top of Beaver Stadium. Kirk Herbstreit said, "What if we got LC to do it too?" So we asked Lee Corso, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." I start to get a little nervous about this. You know, things could go wrong. Maybe they're not going to put him down. So we get about 2 minutes away from air, and our director, Rodney Perez, gets in my ear, and he goes, Reese, security saying, no way. I don't want coach to do this. LC goes, hell no, we're doing it. Let's go.
And you guys want the lion? And you want Corso? LC going for a ride. Be careful, LC. Look at LC riding the wave.
And it was one of the most memorable, electric, hilarious openings I think that we've had on College Game Day.
If you can't laugh at yourself, come on, who are you gonna laugh at then? Bloopers? Man, give me that.
I started at ESPN in 1997 on ESPN News, and if you got a chance to do the overnight Sports Center, that was huge. It ran all morning long, and your face would basically be on ESPN for 12 straight hours. One of the first Sports Centers I ever did was in March of 1998. John Daly was playing at the TPC at Sawgrass. The year before, it had been a disaster. He'd gotten hammered, almost missed his tee time. It was a nightmare. The next year, and he'd come back, and he'd gotten a coin from Alcoholics Anonymous. And I wrote this lead in saying right before he teed off, he got this coin signifying 1 year of alcohol-free living. I'm gonna make people appreciate John Daly and the struggles that he's been through. And for whatever reason, it came out of my mouth.
Before he teed it up at Sawgrass, Daly picked up his AA coin marking 1 year of free alcohol living.
As we went into the highlight, the producer in my ear says, yeah, we're gonna need to fix that for the re-air. And in my head, I'm thinking, my career is over.
Fall of 2007, right? I'm starting at ESPN.
May your team be filled with fantasy goodness. I like that one too.
Yeah.
See you next week.
After everyone does their shows on Sunday, we go to a place that is affectionately called the War Room, where everyone that works on NFL programming and the fantasy show goes to watch all the games. So as I walk in there and I sort of get my food and I got my drink and I'm looking around for a seat, and Mort motions to me. He goes, oh, Matthew, come here. Have a seat here. I'm like, oh my goodness. Front row center right next to Mort. And then like 2 minutes later, all of a sudden, who walks up with his food but Boomer? And it suddenly dawns on me, am I in your seat? And Boomer, who's the sweetest guy, Boomer's like, well, you know. And I'm like, oh God. And I'm like scooping everything up, and all of a sudden, like there's just uproarious laughter and Mort is cracking up. Boomer had a good laugh about it as well. And so I get out of there and I find a seat more appropriate for the guy who's there first day of the job. Mort totally got me on that one. He's been a great friend ever since. And to this day, in the War Room Fantasy Football League that we all play in, my team name is Wrong Chair.
Every college kid has this fear of missing a test. Well, for anchors, a lot of us experience that. Am I gonna miss a show? It was the Colts-Saints Super Bowl. I was doing SportsCenter that night, watching the game with producer, everybody that's involved. Well, I'm locked into watching this game, and as time starts to tick off, there's 2 minutes left, and I look around, and no one else is there at the pod. I start to panic and realize, I gotta get to the studio, and I'm in this suit, running down the hall, in, makeup, everything, sweating like it's Niagara Falls, a part of broadcast news. I turn the corner, and there is John Anderson hosting SportsCenter by himself.
All right, everybody, welcome to SportsCenter.
I'm scrambling, set the mic up, breathing heavy, trying to calm myself down because I've got to be on next. We go to commercial break.
Is Kevin there yet?
Yeah. Kevin Agati, John Anderson here on SportsCenter.
And throughout the newsroom, everybody had a joke for me. And I found out I wasn't the first anchor to miss the start of SportsCenter.
It is still bananas that this is our job. Sometimes it doesn't even seem real. Sometimes it isn't real. Is it?
That was awesome. I know.
So many great memories around our This Is SportsCenter advertising campaign. It has contributed so much to building ESPN over the years. I remember the day Arnold Palmer came to Bristol, piloting his own plane to a local airstrip. It turned out to be a great This Is SportsCenter commercial. Scott Van Pelt and Stewart watching Arnold mix and Arnold Palmer in our cafeteria.
That was awesome. I know.
I remember we finished shooting the spot. We asked him if he would mind chipping
a few balls on the grass courtyard in the middle of our campus. So Arnold grabs a pitching wedge, and we place a tin cup about 40 feet away. It wasn't winning the Masters, but it was amazing.
Right in the front.
That's like winning the lottery, dude. Really? I got that spot once.
Morning, Usain.
Hey, guys. Hey. And the guy was about to go in, right? So I sort of duck under him, you know? Man, he pops out of the car. His chili is running so hot, right? I'm like, dude, it's a parking spot. Relax, right? It's no big deal. Slow day, huh?
I listen.
Man, I would kill for that schedule.
Me too, man. Oh, I'm telling you, me too.
I'm supposed to be this calm, collected, big shot executive. But I hear Usain Bolt's on campus, and I do what everybody else would do. I run across the campus to the studio to see Usain Bolt, who is there to do as many things that are speed-related as possible. He plays Mario Kart against somebody, he's playing ping pong, speed ping pong against some other folks. He comes with one person, not a big entourage. He's got 3 of his own phones because he's tweeting in multiple languages. And he is the calmest, coolest guy. I took a picture next to him, as many people did, and I sent it to my wife, and my wife writes back, yeah, he would beat you in a race.
Going up. Being involved with the This Is Sports Center campaign may be the best thing that I think I've done here.
Oh, my ankle!
He's fine. Still, when I go places, I ask her to take a little off the top, and she gives me... People want to talk about the devil in the elevator. It was at the end of a day of shooting, and the director says, hey, I have an idea. So he's in the elevator, and I just want you to kind of, you see him in the elevator, and he's not going up, and you know he's not going up because he's the devil. So just kind of go with it, feel it out. Going up. It was so simple. I'm not going down there with the devil. I don't care if he is just the mascot. That ain't happening.
With the year 2000 approaching, we're trying to make sure the software here at Sports Center is Y2K compliant.
Y2K test in 3, 2, 1.
Oops.
More from the NBA and an NFL trade right after this.
We definitely have a few bugs to work out, but we'll be ready.
Follow me! Follow me to freedom!
The This Is Sports Center campaign was, this is who you are on Sports Center, but this is who you really are. At the millennium, there were fears around the world when the computers would turn from 1999 to 2000. Everything would go kaflooey.
We're trying to make sure the software here at Sports Center is Y2K compliant.
On the day we are actually filming this, it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And about noontime, they're putting this Indian war paint on my face. Now, it is about 5 minutes before my call. So I go upstairs and go into the men's room, and I realize I've had Indian war paint on my face for 4 hours, and nobody even looked at me twice. The punchline, we had about 3 or 4 or 5 different lines. I'll lead you to the underground, brothers and sisters, and that kind of thing. But follow me to freedom is what stuck and sticks to this day.
Follow me! Follow me to freedom!
So that's all for now. Thanks for watching, not just for the past 30 minutes, but for the past 40 years. Let's plan to do this again, 40 years from now. Hopefully I'll still be here. This guy will probably still be playing. We'll see you then.
Did you see Rocket last night? That was classic Clemens.
Absolutely agree. You know what I liked about him? Nothing fancy, comes right at you.
Chicken, please. And then when he's got all his pitches working, you can just forget about it.
Unstoppable. I'll have the chicken too, please.
Can you just put the biscuit in the basket? Biscuit in the basket, biscuit in the basket, biscuit in the basket. Oh, damn.
He puts the biscuit in the basket from way downtown, bang.
I thought I was over, Keith.
If I would have just ordered the cornbread, none of this would have happened.
I know.